I'd like to thank you, Gurudev, 'cause your children couldn't thank you enough.
Hello everyone. As ITMA chairman, I have the honor to introduce Bob Schulte to this talk today. He is a teacher of meditation since 2023, but he meditates for many years longer. He has been living in Fairfield many years, and he and me have been traveling South India in 2023 for over 14 days together, from one temple, one holy site to the next one, in the footsteps of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi in Kanyakumari and other places. And I'm very grateful to have been traveling with him, because it seems that Bob Schulte is like an encyclopedia of the Indian culture and religion diverses. And today, already then, he said he will travel North India, like Rishikesh and Jyotimat. And now today, it's the point. I think a few days ago, you arrived back, and you will give us your travel impressions. Bob Schulte, the microphone is yours.
Thank you, Roland. So, yes, it's an honor to be here. I'm hoping everybody can hear me okay. I understand I'm having some issues with my volume. But now that we're all here, I would like to suggest that maybe we start with a 10-minute meditation. All right. I'd like to welcome everybody. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about my recent travels. So I think I know almost everybody here, but those who don't know me, my name is Bob Schulte. Many of my Indian friends know me by my spiritual name, Madhakas. So I have been practicing transcendental meditation since 1976. I learned when I was in high school. And 4 years later, I learned the TM Cities program. I ended up moving to Fairfield in 1982 and lived there for 14 years. I was on Creating Coherence program grounding for a couple of years during that period. Ultimately, business took me out of the Fairfield community. A company that I helped start with Barry Sullivan was moved to Dallas. So I've been out in the world since then. 2 years ago, I had the blessing to learn about ITMA and join the teacher training course and became a teacher of effortless deep meditation. This is the exact same meditation that Maharishi Mahesh Yogi spread to the world as transcendental meditation. And it's been an honor to teach about a dozen or so people over the past couple of years, and I hope to expand that teaching opportunity. So I just a couple of days ago returned from a 5-week trip to India. My last trip to India, as I said, was for my teacher training course, and at the end of it, did a little traveling with Roland. Volkamar joined us in the beginning. We went up to Sringeri Mutt, met the Shankaracharya, and then unfortunately Volkamar had to go catch his flight back home. But Roland and I traveled around for a couple of weeks, visiting various temples in South India. And on this journey, I wanted to visit the holy sites in northern India. So I traveled first up to Rishikesh and spent 2 weeks at the Maharishi Ayurveda Clinic and did 2 weeks of Panchakarma before beginning my journeys. And, so let me switch over to my share screen so that I can show you my photographs. I'm going to talk about my travels in India. I was going to start talking about Maharishi and the Shankaracharya position a little bit. I don't know, that's maybe a side point. In Paul's presentation a couple of weeks ago, someone had brought up the question, why wasn't Maharishi considered for the Shankaracharya position? I had wanted to throw in my 2 cents worth, but unfortunately my phone battery was running out and I had to leave. I just wanted to mention that the Shankaracharya position is something much more than being a meditation teacher. And Shankaracharya actually is very much involved in promulgating the Hindu religion and preserving Vedic knowledge, and mediates between different schools of Hinduism as well as different religions. He actually manages the spiritual nut that he is part of. There's 4 seats of learning in India. And as I learned recently, these 4 seats of learning are actually linked to the 4 Chardhan, the 4 major Hindu temples of India. And so the Shankaracharya is actually involved in the management of these various spiritual institutions. Badrinath Dham in North India, Rameshwaram in South India, Dwaraka in Western India, and Jagannath Puri in Eastern India. And I didn't realize that link actually existed until recently. And so that's also a function of the Shankaracharya. And so really Maharshi's Dharma, Maharshi's purpose in the world was much different than that of a Shankaracharya. His position was more to spread the practice of Bhakti Dhyan, or effortless deep meditation. And so he didn't really want that position. He had a different role in the world. But let's go back to my time in India on this trip. And so I arrived in India in the middle of the night. And I have to say, India has changed quite a bit. It's 25 years since I was last in Delhi. It's not the Delhi I remember. The airport is not the primitive airport I remember from long ago. It's very modern, but there's been a lot of technological advancements in India, many that would be enviable to the United States. And I found quite fascinating how much India has advanced. So my first stop in India was in Rishikesh at the Maharishi Ayurveda Clinic. And this is a photo of the Brahmastan, the center of the building. The clinic is actually designed according to Vastu, or Sthapatya Veda. If you notice from Google Maps, it's oriented differently than all the other buildings because it's in the perfect axis for a Sthapatya Veda building in that area. And there's myself. Very beautiful views of the foothills of the mountains from my room in the clinic. I spent a couple of weeks there, met some wonderful people. Met a number of 5 different men from Purusha. Turns out that this clinic is kind of a stayover station for Purusha men coming and going from India. And at the clinic, I also met the priest at the temple, at the clinic. He Ayurveda clinic actually employs a priest who comes in and does puja every morning. And of course, the puja room is in the correct Vastu position in the northeast corner. And so I enjoy joining Pandit Shekharji almost every morning for puja. And at the end of my stay, the clinic was closing for 12 days for renovations. And I had told Panditji that I would be traveling up to Badrinath and Joshimath. And he said, I want to go. So he introduced me to a friend of his, Yogesh, who's also a Hindu priest, and who owns a car. And so the three of us ended up traveling for some time in northern India. I would like to mention there's quite a difference between the Indian TM movement and the international TM movement. While the international movement really goes out of its way to deny any connection to the Hindu background and origins of TM, the Indian movement actually fully embraces it. And it's very active. I found out many initiations, a number of clinics. In fact, there's a large Maharishi Ayurveda hospital in Delhi, and they even have a full-time construction crew for the clinics. And they had come up for a couple of weeks to renovate the clinic after I had left. So I'm going to try to avoid the videos because they have sound in them. So when I was in Rishikesh, I did a little traveling around. This is a picture of, which one is this? This is the Northern Bridge. Maybe, sorry, Janaki, yeah, not Janaki, this is Lakshman Jula in the northern part of Rishikesh. And you can see there's two bridges there. We're actually tearing down the old bridge and building a new bridge. And so I wasn't able to walk across it. But just a street view of the Tapovan area. The clinic is located in the northern part of Rishikesh. It's called Tapovan. Tapovan comes from two words, basically, tapas and vana. It's the forest of meditation, the forest of austerities. And it used to be a forest where the saints would come and do their spiritual practices. But at this point, it's really become a more. This is the puja room in the Maharishi Ayurveda clinic. And this is my friend Pandit Shekharji, who I met, and we were getting our tickets from the government office. Because of the high traffic, they were requiring you to register with the government before going to Badrinath Dham, because so many pilgrims were going. This is Yogesh and Pandit Shekharji and myself on the road heading up north. Just wanted to mention, in India, they call transcendental meditation Bhavatit Dhyan. This is a flyer, or actually a booklet. It gives all of the, it's basically exactly like we would present TM in America, but of course in Hindi, and they use the term Bhavatit Dhyan rather than transcendental meditation. So let's start our journey from Rishikesh. We're heading north. Rishikesh is right at the beginning of the foothills of the Himalayas, and it's in a valley formed by the Ganga River. And as we head north, our first stop is Dev Prayag. And Dev Prayag is where two rivers meet to create the Ganges River. And so this is Dev Prayag, and you see two rivers. On the left, the Green River is the Bhagirati River, and on the right is the Alakananda River. And when they meet at this point, it becomes the Ganga, the Ganges River. And you can actually see the difference in the water very clearly. Ganga is usually very, very clear. It's a slight greenish tint, but this was the beginning of the rainy season, and all the mud is washing down from the hills. And so at this time of year, the Ganga is actually quite brown. Other than the mud, it's very clean water. And so we are heading north here. The path north to Rishikesh and beyond to Badrinath follows the Alakananda River. And so the highway is following the stream all the way upstream. So after we passed Dev Prayag, we reached a very interesting little temple that was actually built in the middle of the river. It's called the Dari Devi Temple. Dari Devi is a form of Durga, and she's considered the guardian of all the holy sites in northern India. And the story behind this temple is that in a big flood, not that long ago, I don't know what it was, 40, 50 years ago maybe, the original Dari Devi temple was washed away, and the murti of Dari Devi got caught on a rock in this spot. And so the locals came and built a temple right where the deity had landed. So it's a very unique temple sitting in the middle of the river. This is the view from my hotel room the morning after we reached Joshimat, looking at the mountains covered by the clouds. Joshimat. And so, previous video I wanted to show, but the sound is kind of loud. We moved after the first morning to a hotel that actually overlooked the temple complex for the Jyotirmat ashram. I just took a couple pictures of the local buildings. They're decaying, but I really love the beautiful architecture and all the detailing. It's just not done anymore. And this is Yogeshji and Shekharji and myself. As Roland remembers, when I go to temples, I like to dress up properly. In fact, many temples around India will not allow you in unless you are wearing proper clothing. Dhoti and kurta for men, and sari or other traditional clothing for women. And so when I go to temples, I always wear my traditional Indian clothing. So our first stop in the city of Joshimat, where Jyotirmat Ashram is the temple complex. There's a complex with various temples owned by the Jyotirmat Ashram. And so as you enter the complex, the very first temple is to Raja Rajeshwari Devi. She's considered an incarnation of Mother Parvati, or Shiva's wife. She also goes by the names Lalita, or Tripura Sundari, Sudashi, or even Sri Vidya. But then the main temple in the site is actually dedicated to Lord Narasimha, who is an incarnation of Lord Vishnu, a very fierce form of Lord Vishnu, half man, half lion, known for protecting his devotee, Prahlad Maharaj. And so this is the temple for Narasimha Dev, seeing it from various angles. And so when Adi Shankaracharya visited this area 2,500 years ago, if I remember right, he came to the area that is now Joshimat at around the age of 11 or 12. And he established a number of temples, and one of them is this Narasingha temple. He actually either found or manifested the deity of Lord Narasingha. An interesting thing is the arm of Lord Narasingha, his right arm, has been decaying over the past 2,500 years. And at this point, it's thin as, almost as thin as a string. And legend has it that when his hand actually falls off, there's going to be a great landslide further north at Badrinath, and the two mountain ranges, Nara and Narayana mountain ranges. Geologists have actually stated that those mountain ranges are moving and coming closer together. And when they come closer, the Badrinath temple actually will get buried under a landslide. And at that point, the deity from the Badrinath temple will be moved to another site further south. In fact, Badrinath, which is further north, probably another 3,000 or 4,000 foot higher elevation than Joshimath. And they get buried in snow about 6 months out of the year. And so the main deity, Lord Badrinath, was actually brought from the Badrinath temple and placed here in the Narasingha temple for 6 months out of the year. So this is actually the home of the Badrinath pilgrimage site for 6 months out of the year. There were several other smaller shrines in the temple complex. This is a small shrine to Lord Shiva, and I see that some devotee came and offered Lord Shiva his favorite herb. We've got some marijuana leaves that were actually offered to Lord Shiva. It's actually considered a sacred offering for Shiva. This next little shrine is Hanuman. This is Sri Hanuman Mandir. So Hanuman is the monkey god, the servant of Lord Rama. And then the next shrine is the Sri Vasudeva Mandir. Vasudeva is another name for Sri Krishna. And this is the moti inside that shrine. Other shrines, there's Sri Garuda Mandir. Garuda is the eagle that Lord Vishnu is said to ride as he travels about. And then just to show you the layout of the city, this is a map showing the area of the Jyotirmutt ashram, and I'm showing the main road coming through here. The temple complex is about a half a mile to the that would be to the east of us, to the right. And so as you come down, you come up this driveway up into the parking lot up here. And then you come back down on foot and take the footpath up the hill. This is a steep climb. And when you get to close to the top of the hill, you take a left turn. And at that point, this is the climb up the hill. This is looking back over at the parking lot and the mountain range beyond. So the first point we get to is the first gate entering Gurudev's Jyotirmutt ashram. As you can see, it was built in 1942, and the age is starting to show. You can see it's starting to become a little dilapidated. This is the first shrine from the first gate from the other side. And then as you pass through that gate, you take a left turn and you reach the second gate. You pass through this gate and start walking up the hill. There's actually another smaller gate further up the hill. And then following the path all the way to the top of the hill, And this area here is the Jyotirmat ashram that Guru Dev built back in 1942. And so as we approach it on the path, again, we see the building is old, starting to become a little dilapidated. This is the entrance to the ashram, and then you take the stairs up to the main level. There's a big walking path surrounding the main floor. And then the entrance to the main hall, where devotees come for regular satsang and come for darshan of the Shankaracharya when he is there. Swami Vasudevananda, the current Shankaracharya, was actually in Varanasi, so I didn't have the opportunity to meet him. But as you can see, it's a very small room. And we were there for Guru Arti one evening, and the room was just packed with devotees. So in the front of the room, in the middle, you see what's called Vyasasana. It's the seat that Shankaracharya sits in. And right now there's a picture of Swami Vasudevananda, the current Shankaracharya, sitting on the seat. And on the seat is a deer skin. The priest in the ashram here told me that that was actually Guru Dev's deer skin, although Paul Mason had mentioned to me he didn't think it was. He said the markings were different. So maybe it's a new one, but I was told that this is actually Guru Dev's old deer skin. And sitting in front of the Vyasasana, you see Guru Dev's padukas. Paduka means sandals, and the sages wore wooden sandals at the time. They look very uncomfortable, to be quite honest, but they're left here as a holy relic. And actually bowing down to the Guru's padukas, or his sandals, is considered a way of connecting to the Guru's energy and his blessings. So they're left here for devotees to honor. The left side of the Vyasasana is a little shrine to Guru Dev, and there's a number of Vedic texts sitting in front. And directly in front of this picture, wrapped in cloth, is a copy of the 4 Vedas. And then on the right side in the front of the room is a small shrine that has a crystal Shiva Linga, a Sphatika Lingam, it's called. It's a very special type of linga. There's only a small number of them in India. It's made out of quartz crystal. And so this is a shrine for Lord Shiva, and that lingam is worshipped every day. And so, the man on the right is the priest who was on duty that day. Let's get notes here. His name is Pandit Radheshyam, and he is a Maharshi trained Pandit. He actually lived in Vedic City, the northern end of, he lived in the Pandit village at the northern end of Vedic City in Fairfield, Iowa, back in 2003, 2004, and has since returned to India, and now he's the head priest at Jyotirmat. And the man on the left arrived a little bit later. He is a friend of Shekhar-ji. Pandit Abhishek. Abhishek didn't seem too pleased that I was taking photos, but Pandit Radheshyam had told me that I could, so I did. So that was our little visit to Guru Dev's ashram. And then we came back down the hill, past through 2 gates, and then turn left and keep going up the path. And where this circle is, there's another amazing relic, these two circles actually. And during Paul's talk, I was actually seated on a bench directly across from this tree. This is called the Kalpa Vriksha tree. And it's claimed this tree is over 2,500 years old. It's said that when Shankara came to this area, which is now Jyotirmat, he had first traveled north to Badrinath and helped reestablish the temple there, and then came down here at the age of 12, I believe, and did austerities, meditated underneath this tree for the next 3 or 4 years. And he had a Shiva Lingam, this oval stone that is used to worship Shiva. And that Shiva Linga is still there under the tree. And they've come and built a small temple, a small shrine around Shankaracharya's Shiva Linga. So this is called the Jyotishwar Mahadeva temple. And it's built into the side of the Kalpavriksha tree. And I found this picture online. We're not supposed to take pictures inside, but down in this dark room, this is the small Shiva Linga that's been sitting there for 2,500 years, since the time of Adi Shankaracharya. Now, if you go around behind the Kalpavriksha tree, take the stairs down, there's another little shrine to the right here. This is the Kalpavriksha tree at the top of the hill. And to the right is a shrine that's built in front of the cave that Adi Shankaracharya had actually sat in and meditated in. And I should say he actually slept in this cave when he wasn't meditating under the Kalpavriksha tree. So we have a small statue, devotee of Shankaracharya inside this cave. I don't remember his name. This is a gentleman in the bookstall right across the walk from the Kalpavriksha tree. And he's been there for his entire life. He remembers all the Shankaracharya's, Swami Shantananda Saraswati. He remembers Vishnu Devananda, and he's now a devotee of the current Shankaracharya, Swami Vasudevananda. He's been there and seen everything that's happened in the ashram over the years. Now I'm going back to the map here. We were up here at the Kalpavriksha tree, and way over here to the side is another cave. This is the cave that Schulte stayed in when he was in this region with Shankaracharya. We went inside. I actually had the opportunity to sit and meditate in this cave. I have to say, the vibrations in this cave are just amazing. It's like the cave meditates you. You just so easily slip into transcendence sitting in this cave. So this is Trotikacharya Gufa, or Gufa is the Hindi name for cave. So in Paul's talk, he had mentioned how there is a second Shankaracharya lineage. And so, as Paul talked about, some of Gurudev's followers were not happy with his choice of Shankaracharya, and so they actually established a second lineage. And a few years later, Swami Swarupananda built another Jyotirmat ashram on the walk heading up to Gurudev's ashram. It's actually a much bigger and more impressive ashram. People see this before they ever reach Gurudev's ashram. I think a lot of people don't even know about Gurudev's ashram because this is out in front and everybody sees it. So inside the the main hall of the second Jyotirmata ashram. It's interesting, they have three forms of Sri Yantra. And the priest there showed them to us. Behind, this is another Svatika lingam, or quartz crystal lingam. And behind it is a traditional three-dimensional Sri Yantra. So that's the first yantra. The second yantra is actually engraved in the top of the Svatika lingam. You can see the lines there. If you look at it from the top, it actually forms a Sri Yantra. And then the third Sri Yantra is actually a traditional two-dimensional yantra on a gold plate that the priest is showing you here. And then on the other end of this hall is the Vyasasana for the alternate Shankaracharya, who is now Swami Avimukteswarananda. So we spent a couple of days in Jyotirmat, and I do have to say I love Jyotirmat. So after this, we went up north to the Badrinath ashram. I just want to talk a little bit about Shankaracharya. Before Shankaracharya ever established the 4 seats of learning, the 4 mutts, he actually established a pilgrimage yatra called Char Dham. It consists of 4 existing ancient temples in India. To the south is Rameshwaram, which is a temple that Roland and I visited 2 years ago. And it's a temple to Lord Shiva, but it has to do with the pastimes of Rama. And actually, for those who know the story of the Ramayana, after Rama rescued his wife Sita from King Ravana, he felt remorse for having killed the king. And so he wanted to worship Lord Shiva as penance for having actually performed this war and having killed this Brahmin king. And so there was an auspicious time coming, and he wanted to perform the puja. And so he sent Hanuman up north to the Himalayas to get a Svatika lingam, a crystal lingam, and bring it back. But Hanuman was delayed, and the auspicious time was approaching. And so Sita actually formed a lingam out of sand, and they did the worship of the lingam at this site of Rameshwaram out of a sand lingam. And then after some time, Hanuman finally arrived with the other linga. And so at this point, there are 2 lingas in the Rameshwaram temple. One of them is the Svatika linga that Hanuman brought from the Himalayas, and the other one is actually made out of sand. They're in 2 different shrines within the temple. And so this is the seat to the south. To the north is Badrinath, which is a temple devoted to Lord Vishnu. It's actually Lord Narayana, who was the avatar of Vishnu back in Satyuga. And then to the west is Dwaraka, a temple dedicated to Lord Krishna in the city that he built as his kingdom after the Kurukshetra war. And to the east is Jagannath Puri, which is the home of Lord Jagannath, another form of Krishna. So these are the 4 main dhams in India that Shankaracharya established as the pilgrimage path. And then after that, he established the 4 seats of learning, and each one linked to one of these temples. In the south, Sringeri Mutt, which is actually about 800 kilometers away, but it's involved in the management of the Rameshwaram temple. To the north, Jyotirmat, which is about 40 kilometers away from Badrinath. To the west, and find the name of this one. So anyway, there's the seat of learning in the west at Dwarka, and the seat of learning at the east at Jagannath Puri. And so each of these dhams is actually representing a different age. Up north, the Badrinath temple represents Satyuga, the first era, the age of enlightenment. And then down in the south, pastimes took place in Treta Yuga. And so that temple and the Sringeri Mutt represent Treta Yuga, the second era. Dwaraka in the west has to do with the pastimes of Krishna in the Dwara Yuga. And then to the east, Lord Jagannath is considered the form of Vishnu to worship in Kali Yuga. And so the Puri Mutt actually represents Kali Yuga. So back to our travels. We're on our way, Yogeshji and Shekharji and myself on our way from Joshimath on up to Badrinath. And again, we're following the Alaknanda River. Beautiful sights, waterfalls and such. This video, very noisy as we've reached Badrinath, cloud-covered mountains. And again, now it's a very noisy video, so I zipped past it. So when you go to the Badrinath temple, there is a kunda, or a naturally occurring spring that they built the shrine around. It's actually a hot spring. The water is very hot. It's called Tapta Kunda. And it's said that you should take a bath in this kunda before entering the temple. Although Shekharji knows the priests everywhere. He knows the priests in Joshimath, he knows the priests in Badrinath. So he arranged a small puja for myself and then a puja for him with the local priest there. So we did that right next to Tapta Kunda before entering the actual temple of Badrinath, which is behind us here. This is Yogesh. This is Shekharji's friend, who was one of the priests at Badrinath temple. I'm forgetting his name right now, but he arranged the pujas and was our guide through the area. Very beautiful temple. On our second day in Badrinath, the clouds cleared up and I could finally see some of the Himalayan peaks. So to the west of the Badrinath temple is the Nara mountain range. And to the east is the Narayana mountain range. And it said these mountain ranges are on plates that are shifting together slowly. And Badrinath temple exists in the valley in between. And so after a couple of days in Badrinath, we said goodbye and went further north, only about 5 kilometers north of Badrinath is the village of Mana. Mana is actually past the road. You actually have to park your car and go on foot to reach Mana. And Mana is the last village on this path before you reach the China border. Very old village. And there's many sites just past the village of Mana. What we were looking at there is the Saraswati River. It's said that in ancient times that the Saraswati River came from the Himalayas all the way down to Prayag, or what used to be called Allahabad, and met Yamuna River and the Ganga River at that point. But about 5,000 years ago, the path of the river shifted, And now the Saraswati River only travels about 300 meters before it meets the Alakananda River and comes to an end. And the story behind it actually has to do with Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva is known as the author of the Vedas. He wrote the Mahabharata, the history of India, and he put the 4 original Vedas into writing for the first time, since in Kali Yuga it's said that man's mind is much less intelligent than it was in previous eras. Before Kali Yuga, the Vedas were passed orally. People were able to memorize hundreds of thousands of verses and understand the meaning. But when Kali Yuga hit, Vyasadeva realized he had to actually put the Vedas into writing for future generations. And so Vyasadeva came north to this area, and we'll look at his cave in just a minute, where he actually put the 4 Vedas into writing and wrote the 18 major Puranas and the Mahabharata. But the legend is that the Saraswati River, you heard in that last video, it's very loud. And it's said that Vyasadeva was annoyed because he was having trouble focusing because of the noise that Saraswati was making. And so he cursed her to come to an end at this site, so there would be much more quiet. So that's the legend behind why the river shifted and is now ending at the Alakananda River. So this is the Saraswati River, and you'll see a boulder that's placed over this ravine that the Saraswati River is passing through. And it's said that the Pandavas actually picked up and placed this boulder to form a bridge to cross the Saraswati River. And so there is a shrine to the Pandavas. For those who know the Mahabharata history, the Pandavas are the family, including Arjuna, who fought in the Mahabharata war. And after the war was over, the Pandavas decided that their earthly pastimes were done, that there was nothing more they needed to do. In order to atone for having killed so many people in that war, they decided to walk up into the Himalayas and perform austerities and meditation and reach enlightenment for their final years. And so this is the spot, it's said, that the Pandavas crossed the Saraswati River. And so we have these statues in their place here. And so these statues, you see at the very front of the procession, a dog. And it's said that as they were walking north, a dog joined them. And this faithful dog, they say, is an incarnation of Dharma. He symbolizes righteousness and virtue. And he walked with the Pandavas all the way on their journey. There's a story, I cannot remember which of the Pandavas, maybe it was Yudhishthira, was told that he could not, he had to leave the dog behind in order to ascend to the higher realms. But he refused to go without the dog, since the dog was so faithful to him. And so the dog is actually memorialized here. So in the front, we see this dog who joined them, and then Yudhishthira. Behind Yudhishthira is Bhima. Behind Bhima is Arjuna, who we know from the Bhagavad Gita. Behind him is Nakula, and then Queen Draupadi, and at the very back is Sahadeva. So this is a shrine to the Pandavas. We walk back downhill and then take another path further north. And we come to a cave. It's called Vyasagufa. This is said to be the cave that Vyasadeva sat in 5,000 years ago. in this cave, he actually did his writings, writing down the Vedas for us. And cameras are not allowed in, but I did find this picture online of the murtis inside the cave. There is a murti of Vyasadeva himself, and then Lord Narayana, and then Vasudeva's son, Shukadeva. And to the right is a statue, or a murti of a bhakti saint by the name of Vallabhacharya, who lived about 500 years ago. And so this is one of the 84 Vaitaks of Vallabhacharya, one of his pilgrimage sites. So it's said that Vyasadeva actually still resides in this cave 5,000 years later, but he resides in a subtle body, and only highly enlightened beings are able to perceive him and interact with him. And so the legend says 500 years ago, Vallabhacharya came to this site and told his followers to wait outside. He entered the cave and he spent 3 days discussing a section of the Srimad Bhagavatam that Vyasadeva had written, discussing the pastimes of Sri Krishna and the gopis. And so he's memorialized with a murti in this cave as well. And this is just a view back across the mountains from outside of the cave. And across the hill, you see a small shrine. This is a close-up view. This is a cave called Mata Murti Temple. Mata Murti is actually the mother of the avatar Narayana. And so she has a temple built to her in this spot. Here I am with my guides up there in the mountains in Mana. And then one last stop north of Mana village is another cave. It's called Ganesh Gufa. So it's said that when Vyasadeva came to this region, Ganesha ascended and materialized here on the planet Earth, and he stayed in a small cave very close to Vyasadeva's cave. And so this is Lord Ganesha's cave. And then just a couple pictures as you're walking back down through Mana village. I love all the murals on the sides of the houses. So after that point, a couple of days up in Badrinath in Mana village, we headed back down south, spent a couple more days at Joshimath. This is just a view of the Alaknanda River. The highway is following the river again. Just beautiful up there in the mountains. And of course, we ran into landslides along the way. Government actually told people not to come north at this time because the monsoon season had started early and there were many landslides blocking the road. And we did run across quite a few, but it was actually a blessing because people were instructed not to travel north. There were far fewer people here and it was much easier to get around. Also, the weather changed. It was supposed to be very cold, but it was actually very pleasant weather when we were there. This was a landslide that had just happened, and the earth-moving equipment is actually still clearing a pathway for people to get through. Pretty common on these roads this time of year. Since here in America, we have snow plows ready to clear paths after snowstorms. But up in Uttarakhand, they have earth-moving equipment to clear paths through landslides through monsoon season. Landslide. So I ended up back down in Rishikesh for a number of days. I stayed on the other side of the river at the Swargashram area. Okay, we're getting to about 12:15. I'm going to try to kind of speed up my presentation because I know I'm supposed to keep this down to about an hour. These are just that was Ganga Arti at the Param Arts Ashram in the Swargashram area of Rishikesh. And this is another one of the bridges going across, not Lakshman Jula, but I believe Ram Jula or one of the others. Very crowded, a huge mural painted on the wall at the end of the bridge. I thought it was beautiful. And again, I'm going to quickly go through the rest of the slides. One day I took a walk up to Maharishi's old ashram, Shankaracharya Nagar, which is now called Charasi Kutiya, also more commonly referred to as the Beatles ashram, because the Beatles had stayed there. I found it a little disconcerting that Indians, the entrance price is 200 rupees for an Indian, but for foreigners, they're charging 1,200 rupees. It comes to about $14. So Indians have learned how to get money out of us Westerners. So I think these meditation caves were built right around the time that Maharishi had moved on and started having courses up in Europe rather than in Rishikesh. But there's a number of these caves that were built. We call them caves. They're actually two-storied domed structures with a stairway coming up. There's a small room on the ground floor and another room in the dome on top, a nice platform to sit on, as well as a bathroom on the first floor. And so these caves were actually built for local hermits to come and meditate in. And so for a number of years, Mendicant monks from the area actually lived on this site. Although since the government took it over, they chased away all of the monks and kind of turned the ashram into a museum. So said these were built between 76 and 78 to accommodate sannyasis and brahmacharis living in the area to do their sadhana. And I believe this is Maharishi's house. It's kind of hard to tell. I was trying to figure out which buildings were which based on having recently read Richard Blakely's book, Secret of the Mantras, and he described the whole ashram at the time of the Beatles course. This is the old post office. Maharishi had set up a little shrine for Lord Shiva in the grounds. This was the old kitchen. As you can see, everything is ruins. It's all being reclaimed by nature at this point. This is the printing press. As I understand it, the first edition of Science of Being, The Art of Living, and I think Maharishi's first publication, first edition of his Bhagavad Gita were actually printed here. Veda Bhavan is the lecture hall that existed at the time of the Beatles, and quite dilapidated. And then some of the dormitory buildings, again, being reclaimed by nature. And this other building I found quite interesting. We have 84 meditation chambers, little rooms that people can go into and meditate. And it's attached to this other large lecture hall, which is also decaying very badly. But the view from the ashram overlooking Rishikesh is just astounding. You look across the Ganga River. And of course, when Maharshi was there, this was all forest. And now it's turned into a huge city, actually a big tourist spot, which I have, I find it kind of sad that this once quiet Valley of the Saints has turned into one of the big vacation hotspots in North India. There's another dormitory building And so a couple other pictures in Rishikesh. On Guru Purnima, I actually went back to across the river back to the Maharshi Ayurveda clinic to do Guru Puja and Shiva Puja with Pandit Shekharji. And then I headed back over to the other side for a few days. So I wanted to find Tat Wali Baba's cave. Those who have been in the movement for some time are very familiar with Tat Wali Baba, a saint, became friends with Maharshi, and I understand he came and gave talks at a number of courses at Shankaracharya Nagar. So I was trying to follow Google Maps to find Tat Wali Baba's cave, and Google Maps is not very accurate. It actually took me to Himshela waterfall instead. And I couldn't find anyone to speak English, and nobody understood what Tat Wali Baba Gufa was. And so I figured I would go back down and ask somebody at the hotel I was staying at. On the way back down the hill, I saw this very tall temple. It's the Bhutanath temple, temple for Lord Shiva. And it has this tower. There's a main shrine on the ground floor, but then there's also another small Shiva shrine on the upper floor. So it looked very interesting. So I went up to the top. This is the view from the very top of the tower, looking across Rishikesh. You see the Ganga River. Off in the distance here, you see the Beatles ashram, Maharshi's old ashram. These are some of the meditation caves. And then up here, somewhere in the hills, is Tat Wali Baba's cave. So it turned out that the priest who was sitting in the shrine at the top of Bhutanath temple did speak English. And so he took me out on the platform and pointed exactly to where the cave was and gave me instructions of how to get there. So I climbed back up the hill and finally found this entrance by the side of the road that took me up to Tat Wali Baba's cave. And so just outside the cave is a little altar with a murti of Tat Wali Baba sitting on it. And then this is the cave itself. They've built another altar and this little shrine. And it's possible, I'm not sure, but this might actually be the tomb of Tat Wali Baba. Maybe Paul would know more about that than me. But this is inside Tat Wali Baba's cave. And this is a little photo next to the shrine just outside the cave. You see Tat Wali Baba and Maharishi. Very faded picture. So I'm going to end my presentation here. After this, I went back across the river, spent another 4 days at the Ayurveda clinic. And then Shekharji took myself and Carla up the hill to another temple, Nilakant Temple, which is dedicated to Lord Shiva. Nilakant refers to the blue throat of Lord Shiva, and it has to do with the pastime when the ocean of milk was stirred and poison rose to the top. And before the gods could reach the Amrit Kalash, Lord Shiva had to drink the poison, and that poison turned his throat blue. So the Nilakant temple commemorates that pastime. And then after this, I went down to my favorite part of India, Vrindavana, the land of Krishna. I have a lot of pictures from there, but I'm going to end the presentation here because time is moving on. So we're almost 12:30 my time here. This is Paula and Shekharji and Yogeshji and myself on our way up to the temple. So as I said, I'm going to end my presentation here. And stop sharing the screen. Hopefully I will come back. There I am. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about my journey. I had a lot more to say, but it's hard to squeeze it into an hour and a half, it seems. And if anybody would like to talk about anything, we could have discussion about these holy sites or about meditation or about anything. So I'll just open the floor to everybody.
It seems we are also impressed by the report of your traveling. But I don't want to discourage somebody. If somebody wants to ask you something. Okay.
It's always a real pleasure traveling with Roland on my first journey. Bothmar on the very first leg of the journey to the Shankaracharya Nut in Sringeri, and then Roland, all the other temples. And so I hope to go back every year and visit different parts of India and different holy sites. So I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to present.
Thank you very much, Bob Schulte from Florida, for this great, wonderful impression and presentation of your traveling North India, the holy sites, of which most of us only know the past, but not the present anymore. And I'm looking forward, maybe you give us another presentation about the second half of your travel now of this year, and we talk about that, all right? So I would just like to say thank you very much, and Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev, everybody.